Good evening. Hello. I'm a bit out of breath. We just had a power cut. Not a long one this time. We had one during the week that lasted for about 4 hours, but just enough to have me try and move everything out of where I normally do my recording before the power came back on. I'm now rushed back downstairs with everything. So sorry if I'm a bit breathless. It's quite nice to be back, sat in my big armchair and out of where I've been recording the studies this last week. I don't know if you caught up with any of the this book studies. If you missed them and you're interested, if you go into this channel at any point, there's a playlist called This Book, and you can just run the playlist. The whole thing takes less than an hour and a quarter, and you can just catch up on some of those studies. Or you can do them one at a time, put them on in the background and be doing something else. But if you were part of it, if you did follow us, then I really hope they were a blessing. It blessed us to go over some of those things that are so foundational to who we are. And what was really lovely, being a virtual church holiday, with us not going away like we normally do, us not heading off to the south coast and all of the break from our normal routine that provides, is that actually still last week I felt very much like I had isolated myself from the normal mundane process of living. I don't know if anybody else got that feeling as well. You'd have to ask the other Harvest folks. There's a real sense of just coming away from the normal grind, switching off some of the social media, switching off some of the demands that we're normally used to having in our lives, and just focusing our attention on what God was going to say to us during that week. And so that was a real blessing. Came as a bit of a shock then at the end of the week when, because I am a little bit of a news junkie, I've got to be honest, I sort of emerged from that wonderful time of kind of peace and confident hope and reflection, and just caught up on what had been going on. And 2020 is a really, really wild year, isn't it? I mean, it didn't matter which way you turned, whether you were looking at the politics that was going on and the election cycle in America, or the issues with going back to school here in the UK next week, and all the different things that are happening, and people who believing that there's a second wave coming, and other people who are beginning to doubt that there was even a first wave, and all these different conflicting ideas. And I really don't want to get into which ones I think are true and which ones I don't. But the more I thought about it, the more, if I'd let it, it could have got me down. What did I spend my week doing that had blessed me so much? Well, about an hour and a quarter of Bible studies. That was it. And I bless God for all the different people that are part of the Harvest family and the folk that connected and got involved. And it was just beautiful. All the people that shared readings for us that we could put in, so that we had all the voices of Harvest involved. It was a lovely thing. And then looking at the scale of the crisis in the world around us and the issues that were going on, the natural way of thinking would say, good heavens, what are we doing? We're barely even a ripple in our local tiny pond. God has a very good way of not letting you beat yourself up for too long. And so I was reminded of a parable that every Sunday school child, most children still in primary schools, have heard. A parable in which we learn something profound about what achieves the greatest outcome. Some of you might guess straight away when I tell you that it's found in John 6, verses 4 to 11. This is one of the few stories. It's not a parable, sorry, it's a miracle, but one of the few stories of Jesus that occurs in each of the four Gospels. John 6, 4 to 11. Now the Passover, feast of the Jews, was near. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming towards him, he said to Philip, where shall we buy bread that these may eat? But this he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip said to him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them would even have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. But what are they for so many? Then Jesus said, make the people sit down. Now there was a lot of grass in the place, so the men sat down. There were about 5,000 of them. Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to those sitting down. They did the same with the fish, and they all had as much as they wanted. I'm going to stop reading there, but if you get a chance, read on, and you discover that they not only had enough for everybody, but they had 12 basketfuls left over. You know, as we came out of that wonderful kind of church holiday bubble this week and just encountered some of these terrible stories and some sense of the scale of the crisis of confidence and the total hopelessness in the systems of the world, it will be easier to say, well, what can we do? What have we got? And the Bible is full of illustrations where God says to somebody, what are you holding? Or what have you got in your hand? It's what he said to Moses when Moses says, how will these people believe me? What shall I show them so that they know that I've spoken with you? And God says, what are you holding? And Moses says, well, I've got my shepherd's stick. And he says, okay. And he begins to show him things he can do with his shepherd's stick. And so there are lots of times when we see in the Bible a principle that says, what you got in your hand? The wisest man after the flesh who ever lived said this, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all of your might. So we look at the world around us and we say, well, what can we do? And what do we have? And what can we offer as a response? I don't know what was going through the mind of that lad, and scripture doesn't tell us, so it's probably not helpful to speculate too much. But whatever he was thinking, seeing the need, he presented a ludicrously small response. But it was all he had. He didn't come and say, well, look, I haven't got a lot, so I'll just take what I've got, because let's be honest, I might as well have a bit of it myself, because it's still going to be ridiculously small amount, and I am one of the 5,000. He didn't hold back. He just gave what he had. We have no idea what was going through his mind, but he gave it. And when Andrew saw it, he thought, well, it's worth giving it to Jesus. You know, in all the things that are happening in the world right now, it's quite easy sometimes when somebody that you know is stepping up and they're trying to make a difference where they're at, or they're trying to do something that will change the lives of the people they have access to. With the resources they have, it would be really easy to say, why bother? You got nothing. It is not making a difference. The world is still in a state. Those little changes in their lives that people make to try and address climate change, those small things they do to bless their neighbors, that little bit of giving, which is all they can afford, it would be easy to despise it. I love the heart of Andrew. He's been made aware that this child has got a small lunch. And he doesn't say, oh, just go away, don't bother Jesus. If he's going to do a miracle, your lunch isn't going to play a part in it. But he presents it to Jesus and says, look, this lad here has got his packed lunch. He's got his 5 loaves and his 2 fish. What are they amongst so many? You know, sometimes when somebody goes to do something, we're tempted to ask them that question. We're tempted to say, what are you doing with that for? What's that about? What difference do you think that would make? But when instead of questioning the person who's trying to present what they've got, for Jesus to use it, and saying to them, oh, what do you think you're doing? Having Andrew's approach is so much more positive. Receiving it and bringing them to Jesus and saying, hey, Jesus, this person's bringing the best they've got. They're bringing everything that came to hand. They're bringing what they had with them. They're presenting it to you. So Jesus, you answer the question, what is this to so many? We live in a time when, partly I think because of the rise of social media, but also because we are so much more aware of how little difference most human effort makes. That there is a temptation always when somebody tries to present what they've got to meet a need, we can despise the size of the offering. But Andrew's heart is a beautiful heart when he takes what the child has got and seeing how utterly inadequate it appears to be, He still goes to Jesus and says, here it is. What would it be? How can you do anything with this, Jesus? What are you going to do with it? Because when we say to Jesus, look, this is all I've got and I don't see how it can meet the need, Jesus is able to say, it's okay. You tell him that the answer's coming. You see, the outcome of your service is according to the scale of your God, not according to the scale of your gift. The outcome of your offering is about the God who can speak and multiply it, not about how far you can stretch it out or how finely you can chop it so that everybody just gets a taste. This is not about how far your resources stretch. It's about whose hands you place them in. It's not about how great your life can be, how grand and transformative, how earth-changing your life can be, but rather how your life presented to Jesus Christ is guaranteed to bring about extraordinary blessing to the people amongst whom he's placed you. You know, as I was preparing this, I began to think about the fact that different people serve different things. They serve the systems of this world. Some people serve the financial system. Some people serve community. Some people serve a political agenda. Some people serve a particular work or career path, whatever it is. And in all of those places, there are people or systems that try to offer answers to the needs that you see. But they always demand a price that is proportional to the scale of the need. They always demand that you pony up enough to meet the need. And if you will only go so far, then they will only go so far with you. One of the things that's been really prevalent in the last probably 20, 30 years that I've been involved with not-for-profit and voluntary sector programs is that lots of charities and lots of government initiatives provide what is called matched funding. That's a human way of thinking. You show us what you can give and we'll match it. I don't know what system you're serving. I don't know what you would think of as your God, but I bless my God, the person Jesus Christ, that when I present to him what I have in my hands, I discover that the needs of this world are already met in the price he paid. And that I can give everything that I have, confident that I won't miss out. Because God is no one's debtor. And I may not be someone who would encourage you to believe, well, if I give a fiver, I get a fiver. I don't believe that's how God works. The blessings of God are far more abundant than substance or stuff. But I absolutely believe that if I give what little I have and I present it willingly to Jesus to meet the needs that he identifies, not the ones that I think are there. You know, it was Jesus who talked about feeding this crowd. In the other gospel accounts, you hear him saying to his disciples, you go feed them, because he has compassion on the crowd. He defines the need. But when I present what I've got, I discover that there will be basketfuls left over. When I pour out of my resources into the hands of Jesus Christ, what he does with those resources multiplies them to such an extent that my little gift becomes armfuls. And my small offering becomes abundant blessing to the people around me. Whatever this world needs, I believe the answer is found in Jesus Christ. And the gift that I give is simply my declaration of confidence in him, saying, Jesus, of all the things that I have, they accomplish nothing unless they're in your hands. But if they're in your hands, they're not only the people that you sent me to, but also in my life. The abundance, the joy, the confidence, the peace, the provision, they will all come from you. Some days, because of my long-term illness, there are days when physically I'm very, very weak. But you know what? The outcome of my service is not according to my physical strength. It's not according to my health or my ability to keep going. It's according to the strength of my God. The inexhaustible, abundant resurrection life of Jesus Christ, that is the life that sustains and keeps me. And so before I finish tonight, I want to encourage you. You might be sat there and thinking, I don't know what I can do. I don't even know where to begin. It's okay. You may not even know what to present. I sometimes find myself there. I'm so busy trying to work out what's the best thing I can hand to Jesus. I'll try and knock it together, cobble it together out of my resources with my not very great strength or ability. And all of a sudden I remember that rather than just presenting him a thing, I can give him myself. I can say, Jesus, here I am. I belong to you. This life is for you. This heart is for you. This mouth is for you. This strength, what little there sometimes is, but all of it is yours. This mind is for you. God, my resources, my substance, my time, my hopes, they're all for you, Jesus. When I make my pretty insignificant offering, certainly alongside the scale of the circumstances of need, Jesus is able to take it. And the outcome is not according to my dimensions or my abilities or my wisdom or my strength. It's according to his. And he is God of gods, omnipotent, omniscient. He's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega. He's the one for whom are all things and by whom are all things. He's the one who can speak things into being that were not even known or thought of before he declared them. I hope the endless cycle of distressing, confusing, difficult news isn't overwhelming you. I hope that you are looking to Jesus. I hope that you have a confidence in you that God is for you. So who can be against you? I hope you know that the gospel is good news for absolutely everybody, without exception, if they'll just receive it for themselves. But if you have been feeling a bit overwhelmed, you do sometimes look in the mirror and say, well, I can't do anything. I want to encourage you tonight, place your life in the hands of Almighty God. Place your life in the hands of Jesus and discover an impact, an abundance, and a beautiful set of outcomes, which are not according to the scale of how small you felt when you gave yourself to him, but are according to the scale of how great his love, his mercy, and his power at work in you can be. You can find out how to connect with us in the details below this video. Like I said at the beginning, if you haven't had a look at This Book series yet, there's a playlist on our channel. I'll put some details in the details below as well so that you can have a look at that and catch up. And as ever, if you want to connect with us on our social media and say hello or ask for prayer or just engage with what we're doing in some way, we would love to hear from you. God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.